Hey guys, this week on The Real DVD Watchers, I'm reviewing a classic horror movie from 1968, directed by Roman Polanski and starring Mia Farrow. It's Rosemary's Baby. Now, this movie is it's a pretty famous movie. It appears on a lot of sort of countdown lists of one of the greatest movies ever made. And it is a really amazing classic movie. Like I said, it's from 1968, directed by Roman Polanski, and it's based on a novel by Era 11, and the whole story behind Rosemary's Baby is basically the main character, as you can guess, is called Rosemary. The movie kind of starts off in your sort of soap opera kind of way of her and her husband. I think in moving into a new apartment. Her husband's played by John Cassavetes. I think that's the only pronounced his name. Actually, at one point in the making of this movie, they were actually considering Jack Nicholson to play that role, which would be quite cool. But yeah, so her and her husband are moving into a new apartment. They look round. The apartment is actually backs onto another apartment. Originally, I think it was one sort of big apartment that they split into two, which kind of becomes quite an important part of the story later on. But so they move into this new apartment, and they have these neighbors who are kind of quite strange, I guess. They're very kind of forceful onto the family, this new couple. They they want to be part of their lives in a way. They kind of invite them over for dinner. They pop round. The woman who lives there, she's very nosy, and Rosemary is kind of put off by them, whereas her husband kind of starts off not liking them, but he begins to sort of warm to them and stuff. And at the same time, very early on in the film, Rosemary meets a girl who was living with this couple that they meet, and she very early on in the movie she actually commits suicide, which is kind of strange, and all these very weird things happen. And eventually, Rosemary decides that she wants to have a baby. Her husband's an actor, and he kind of, after being away for a little while, his career sort of starts getting better, and they decide to have a baby. Now, when on the night that she first plans to sort of, get the train rolling, I guess, she the the neighbor brings over this sort of chocolate pudding that she's made, and they sit and eat it. And afterwards, Rosemary kind of feels a bit woozy. She thinks that it's probably because she hadn't eaten anything all day and she'd be drinking, so she goes to bed. And that night, she has this really vivid dream about all the neighbors and all the people that she's met in the building are having sort of this ritual, and during it, she sort of is impregnated by the devil, and it's a very disturbing, really creepy scene, and it's one of the most memorable scenes from this movie is her being impregnated by the devil, and it feels really weird, and you have all these people watching and all these chants and music and dancing, and it is very creepy, weird scene, and it's probably where most of the horror comes from this movie is this group of people that um, the more she finds out, she wonders who these people actually are, whether this actually happened, whether it was a vision, whether it was just in her head. And as she becomes pregnant, she realizes this pregnancy isn't normal, and all these strange things happen during that time. And it's a very, I guess, if you looked at this movie and if I described it to you, it would seem as though things happen very slowly, and it does have a kind of slow pace to it, but it never feels like a slow film. It goes very quickly. You never really lose interest, which is really interesting because it's not a fast-paced movie. It just has this really kind of slow feel to it, although it doesn't feel slow when you're watching it. I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but it's not a movie you're going to get bored watching, even though it is the pacing of it is quite slow. I mean, I don't think that Rosemary actually becomes pregnant until like an hour into the movie. The movie itself is just over 2 hours. I think it's about 2 hours and 10 minutes, but it never feels long at all. It keeps you interested the whole way through, mainly just because of the mystery of the whole thing. It's kind of like a mystery movie rather than a normal horror movie. It's not your typical horror movie, especially the horror movies that you have like nowadays. This is a very classic horror movie that, like I said, you don't get this kind of film made nowadays. It's a very interesting movie. Um, it's not. I mean, it's classified 18 here in the UK, but it's not a bloody movie. It's not very gory. Most of the horror and the disturbing parts come from this ritual, especially at the end. The ending is very memorable, and it is quite creepy and weird. A lot of this movie comes from the creepiness of it, and the whole, is this really happening? Is this going on in her brain? And it is there's a whole kind of conspiracy feel to it as well, because especially towards the end when she kind of realizes what might be going on and everyone else is telling her that she's just being insane and they're kind of all against her. It is kind of has like a conspiracy sort of element to it. The music in this movie is amazing. The opening the opening music and the ending sort of outro type music is very creepy. Especially how the movie ends, because the movie ends kind of with a big climax. It builds up to the big climax and just ends, which I really like. I don't like it sometimes when movies kind of build up to a big climax and you kind of have the shock factor, but then they kind of have another 5 or 10 minutes of just wrapping everything up and making everything kind of neat and nice, and it kind of sometimes takes away from the whole climax shock factor of it, which this movie doesn't do. It kind of leaves you hanging in a way. It doesn't tie everything up neatly, which I think is really good. I like that. I think it's really a really good way to end the film, because you kind of are left hanging, wondering what actually happened, and well, not necessarily what happened, but what's going to happen next. And it is really good. I highly recommend this movie. It's a very good classic movie. The DVD itself comes with a making of featurette and retrospective interview thing, which is quite interesting. It's mostly to do with the casting. Like I said, they had loads of different people they originally wanted. Roman Polanski is quite an interesting director to hear speak. Mia Farrow, who does an amazing job in this movie. She won. Oh no, Ruth Gordon won an Oscar. She was one of the neighbors. She actually won an Oscar for it. And Mia Farrow is just amazing in this film as well. She does an amazing performance. Um, and I think originally, I think during the time this movie was made, she was married to Frank Sinatra, which is quite weird. And originally she wanted to leave the movie to be with him, but then they kind of convinced her that, she'd get lots of awards and do really well from this movie. And she really does have an amazing performance. She really is like the star of the show, and she's really good in it as well. She's a really excellent actress in this movie. Um, yes, I highly recommend it. It's a classic movie that you should go out and watch. Don't be put off by, uh, you know, um, if you've heard that it's slow or if it's too long, whatever. It's really good. It's perfect for me. It was, everything fit really well, and I really enjoyed it. So, highly recommend this movie. Please check it out. Rosemary's Baby, 1968, Roman Polanski movie. Just watch it. It is really good. I wouldn't know how else to describe this movie other than to say just go out and see what you think of it yourself. I really enjoyed it. You can pick it up really cheap as well. It's one of those movies that get put into these kind of like I think it's in the Empire Awards cheap deal thing going on at the moment. So check it out. Really good. Highly recommend it. Rosemary's Baby. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next week.